Welcome to the season finale of The Journal. I'm Kim Smith.
And I'm Carissa Reyes. We've got a great show ahead, including music, graffiti, a mock disaster, and a continuation of the Filipino nanny story.
Plus, we'll be having live performances by two verbally gifted people, stand-up comedian David Andrew Brent and spoken word artist Myk Miranda, who will be coming up right after this. So don't go away. We'll be right back on The Journal.
2 weeks ago on The Journal, we were introduced to Myk Miranda, a poet involved in the group Santa Guerrilla. Now here he is to inspire us with a bit of spoken word. Take it away, Myk.
Confined by an empty box of burning ashes and falling leaves, I smoke the resins of society, sighing as I heave. With a heart full of fear and a thought fixed with love, I release with a whoo and strain my flesh to the limit. Going to war with inhibitions, I inhabit a new realm made of thrice dimensions, unlimited panoramics, and cynical screens. Formerly on the freeway to empty promises, cold discontent, and great depressions, I jumped into the darkness to find the light, floating on optimism, flying through the air of possibilities. My fams got caught in the pipeline to prison. From broken homes to getting high in school, graduating to steel bars in a cage, where the only thing that makes sense is your mandatory labor. Savor this moment. My homegirl's still on the freeway driving a healthy prescription of escapism. For elementary, we studied Walter Disney child lobotomies, then graduated to Hollywood and sex. All the while, television crept by our side as we sealed the screams of the impoverished and unseen with screens. MTV and pro sports made love to free time as we dreamt at night of BET standards of life. My man looked lost, told me his only culture was hip-hop. I said, cool, so yours began in 1973 and mine roots to the beginning of the earth. Our beings beyond birth, beyond cartoon Ninja Turtles, Rainbow Brights, and Smurfs. The popular culture cultured our understanding of popularity as we chased the style and fake fame until the lines on our face made us feel ashamed. When the party's over, who cleans up? Whose team do you join up? Confined by an empty box of burnt expectations and stale promises, I scream for the others to come follow. Let's break loose and create tomorrow. Let's find the root of the sorrow and climb united heights of liberation. Let us traverse every nation, setting TV sets on fire like flags, like rags, like costs of food, like ruckus that's food that's smart, extraordinary, ubiquitous, and luminescent. Transcendent from the influence of immaterial kings to sage wisdom of datus, shamans, and babylons, filling the ether with lovely. Castrating the tyrants with icy blades of conviction. Absolute resolution, non-fiction, non-diction. My expressions constrained by this plain colonizer language. As gods and earths of my soul are pillaged and tainted. I will not be, and I am not confined by that plastic box. All these condos look the same. They push the barriers of plain, overflowing with lames who are too scared to view their own life without a happily ever after. Have a happy mundane existence. Be scared of geopolitics. There are those who live through life, and there are those who live life. After every happening, the opinion is yours. The outcome is ours. Discover time.
Wow, what a great way to start the show, Myk, to get us thinking. So, when can your fans see you next?
I'm performing with my group Santa Guerrilla tomorrow. It's a free show at the United Steelworkers Hall, 25 Cecil Street, Dundas and McCall, around the AGO. It's free, starts at 6 o'clock. It's part of the May 1st Festival for workers' rights and Labor Day, original Labor Day.
Sweet.
It's great, man. Do you have anything big plans for the summer?
Yes, Santa Gadilla, as well as myself, will be performing at the Filipinos Making Waves Festival at Dundas Square, August 16th. We'll also be performing at UTM on May 21st.
Good stuff, good stuff. Awesome, well thanks again for coming out. That's great. What's next, Carissa?
Well, coming up later in the show, we have the stories of Richie Sosa, a rising rap artist, and Aaron Marshall, a guitarist who suffered a hand injury that threatened the end of his musical career, among many other great pieces. But first up is a profile of lead guitarist Josh McLeod.
Originally from Scarborough, his band, A Flame in December, is on the rise with their hardcore music. Recently, the band was sponsored by XS Energy Drinks and a guitar string company. Reporter Jennifer Ingram tells us Josh's story.
The underground music scene, known as hardcore screamo, is rarely a genre people tend to hear about. Yet so many hardcore bands, such as A Flame in December, manage to flourish in Toronto's local music scene. An increasing amount of fans dedicate time to attending hardcore shows, where the adrenaline from the performers captivates the audience.
When I'm performing, I like how my excitement gets the crowd excited, and the more pumped they get, the more pumped I get.
I spoke to Josh to see what it takes to succeed as a screamo hardcore musician in this scarce but expanding genre of music.
I started playing guitar because I went to a bunch of shows and was just interested in the whole band atmosphere, and I guess I figured guitar would be one of the easier instruments to play, so decided to do that. We actually started the band in Flame in December in a friend's basement with everybody just trying to write their own stuff. TJ was trying to scream at the time. TJ's now on bass. Had a few bass players and a new vocalist, but things are going well. So excited to see where this thing goes. I think in order to succeed in the hardcore scene these days, you have to be able to be creative, write new things. These days, you've heard one band, you've heard them all. Try and be a bit different. There's not many bands that have melodic singing, so I think that's one thing we have going for us. In order to get shows, you got to network. So we talk to a lot of people at shows, promoters, photographers. Just got to message people on MySpace, bug them a bit. I like talking to new people each and every show, going to new town. Our band has a message, and it's a really good way of sharing that message with new people.
I like when I come to the shows, I know kind of what I'm gonna get, and they put on a great show. Their stage presence is, I don't know, it's very entertaining. It's not like over the top where you get kind of annoyed, but they don't just stand there. I've known about them for quite a while now, like a year and a bit, and just from then until now, they've grown so much and they have so much potential.
Kim, how old is he again?
Carissa, don't get distracted. We have lots more in store on the show. Comedian David Andrew Brent is going to be here in the studio in a little while, and later on we'll be showing the mock disaster that took place at the end of March.
Plus, we have an update on the Filipino nanny story I've been following this season. Right now, though, let's move on to the story of Richie Sosa, a local rapper making international success.
He recently did an interview on Flow 93.5 that lasted 3 hours. Reporter Andrew Weeks tells us about rap sensation Richie Sosa. Check it out.
even though she wanna be around me. I know she wanna Chris Brown me, flood me with the love till she drown me.
The popularity of independent music has skyrocketed over the last few years, and it's getting harder and harder for each person to make their own mark. For Richie Sosa, however, this is becoming easier and easier.
Alright, the name's Richie Sosa. I'm saying it's a big, long, giant acronym. I'm saying a real intelligent curb hustling in effect, or a real ignorant curb hustling in effect. You know what I'm saying? Son of a street animal. Well, born and raised in Scarborough. You know what I'm saying? I rep the whole mega city though, doing this music thing. Been doing it for a long time. Been on commercial radio for about last 5-6 years. Done a lot of stuff with people across the border, overseas, Germany, New York, LA, Cali, Miami, all over the place. I had a single called Get It Crackin', produced by a man from Soundsmith, and that was on the charts across the world. We had it in Zurich, Honolulu, LA, everywhere. It was getting played. The DJs loved it, and I was lucky. You know what I'm saying? Bump Squad DJs, TJs DJs. They made sure the song could go as far as it could go. You know what I'm saying? Without a video or a big budget album in the stores. And then I had the I Bang with Remo, the rap star out of the Bronx, New York. And that one probably did the biggest numbers, at least 500 spins on radio stations like Hot 97 in New York, Shade 45, XM Radio. Big VJs were spinning it, K-Slay, Green Lantern, the list goes on.
Identity and defining where we fit in. The music industry is competitive and consumers never sleep. But for some people, everyday life is a challenge.
If you thought you were lost in high school, take a look at this next story. It's about the particularly difficult fitting in journey of Taufiq Ramazanillah.
Sometimes it's not easy being a woman, especially when you were born a male. Taufiq Ramazanillah is a 21-year-old, glamorous transgendered woman. Noticing her feminine behavior, her elementary school teachers would often send her to counselors and doctors for psychiatric evaluation.
And they wanted to like see if I was trans, if I had gender identity disorder. And so that's when I knew like the words like, you know, women have like vaginas. And at that time I thought that in order to be a woman that I needed a vagina. I thought that being a girl was like, you know, dressing pretty and liking makeup and playing with dolls. And those were all things that I loved to do. Even though a large part of my life I portrayed the image of a boy, I don't think I ever was actually a boy. I really had fun and I was dating boys in my age and I really started to be socially accepted. I had to grow out my hair, right? I think that was my major concern. I mean, I wasn't too concerned with my body. I didn't really like feel like I needed breasts, you know, like really huge breasts. Like I was obviously a big girl, I had curves, so I mean like it wasn't really something that I concerned myself with too much, but just like growing out my hair slowly and then making my look less and less androgynous as time went on. I need like a wet beater or something.
I don't have any.
A wet beater.
Sure.
I definitely was into like really pushing this like high school girl image, you know, where I'd wear short skirts all the time, I'd wear a lot of makeup, you know, and I mean, to other people, I think that's how they defined the turning point of who I was as a person. Like, it's how they went from thinking of me as a man to a woman, just like that physical change of seeing me like, of seeing me so femmed up. I think I clean up well.
Like, I don't see her as a male, I see her as a female, because that is what her identity is. So, I know a lot of straight men, a lot of times are insecure about their own sexuality and they can't acknowledge that.
Even though Taufiq's friends accept who she is, some still have a hard time supporting the lifestyle of a transgendered person. Something Taufiq constantly finds herself defending.
Good, but as a role model for somebody who wants to express themselves and be accepted in any way, shape, or form they'd like to be portrayed as, I think she's a strong individual in that sense. But I don't think that it's a good influence for younger women or boys, because they're trying to figure out who they are and it confuses them even more.
I would have liked to see more trans people and more gay people or more lesbians around, right? Because at a younger age, you would have taught me that it's not such a scary thing or not such a taboo thing. And I mean, of course, times change, and like back then, it was obviously more taboo, right? But like moving into the future, I don't know if it should be.
I was hearing a lot from the people I thought were my closest friends that I was going to burn in hell, for example, or I would never be a girl and God would never accept me. So society shouldn't have to accept me.
When we're in public, sometimes people will like yell stupid or like try and like start fights and stuff like that.
I made an entirely different circle of friends.
It never really bothered me that she was a tranny, and I'm fine with her. Like I'm okay with who she is.
I'm really lucky in the sense that I'm really able to be 100% comfortable with who I am and what my body is, right? Like, I mean, I don't know a lot of girls, let alone a lot of trannies, or that could walk around with like a full-out tranny beard with their friends and have them like respond to them the same way or like treat them no less different. It's, I guess, the way people meet me is what they get stuck with, the image they get stuck with.
Yeah.
Like, you couldn't imagine me as a dude.
I can't picture you as a guy.
My father, I don't think it made him happy. Like, I think obviously he was confused. He didn't understand it fully, but that didn't stop him from like loving me. He just tried to be the best father he could and tried to be as supportive as he could. Most trans people, they take years and years and years to like come out as trans people. They get run out of their high schools, you know, they get beat up, they get made fun of, or they're not socially accepted, you know?
Even though a lot of people talk about Taufiq like in a negative way, Taufiq would still go to school and be the same person. But like Taufiq was really strong about it and stood up for herself. And I respect that now that I've grown up and know what it's like.
Trans women in particular, are very limited in their options for what they can do with their futures. I didn't have the confidence to think that I could go to university, or didn't think I had the confidence that I could, you know, have a normal job and work with normal people and do normal things, you know? So I was delusional in that sense. And this is something I learned really young, but like, I mean, and I was lucky too, because a lot of women don't get to learn this or feel this way truly inside. But, you know, you can be a girl and you can have short hair, and you can be a girl and you can skate, and you can be a girl and you can like get dirty and run around with boys and punch them and like, and girls can do all of those things. It's so beyond clothing, it's so beyond looking a certain way. It's something I feel.
A lot of people find their identity through art.
For Chris Fonseca, it's graffiti, and Chris found enough inspiration to start his own business surrounding his talents. Reporter Sean O'Neill tells us his story.
Chris Fonseca is a force to be reckoned with. Better known to his friends as Chia, this multi-talented designer and urban artist uses his roots in skateboarding to create astounding pieces of art. With 2 clothing lines on the rise and custom art design booming, the future of this talented young entrepreneur seems limitless.
I've been skating for like 10 years. Started when I was in elementary school. I was 14. I was around 1:20 in the AM, and we went down to U of T, and we found this 9 set, and I was looking at it, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'll jump down the set. I'll hit it first try. Tried it like 17 or 18 times, and then like the last try, I was like, alright, I got it right here. I just popped down, and as I stomped it, my back foot slipped off. And going down at that pressure, my femur just snapped in 4 places. And then they had to call an ambulance. I waited around for like 45 minutes laying on my back while my leg is bent over another one from like bent in the middle. They couldn't move it, like only the little stub was moving. It was retarded. Yeah, so I ended up going to Sick Kids. was in the hospital for about a week for waiting for operation, and then they finally said I was okay to go home. Went home. I had to get tutored. I was bedridden for 7 to 8 months, and all that free time that I just mostly drew a lot, trying to refine my art and grow as an artist, because I couldn't grow as a skater anymore. I guess I just tried to come up with new styles of graffiti, of caricatures, everything. Eventually decided that since skateboarding was taking a time out for some time, that I decided that maybe I should start working on some artwork and try and push myself. And I was like, okay, well, how can I make money off of this? So it started in high school. I used to take my hats and put graffiti all over them, and eventually people started to catch on, and they'd look and they'd be like, yo, where'd you get that hat? Where'd you get that hat? And I was like, yo, I made these hats. I'm like, can you make me one? And that's how it all blew up. And I was like, all right. So if I'm gonna start making hats for people, I gotta have a legit name. I have to have business cards. So I came up with some business cards, and then it just kind of gave me an idea to try and start my own clothing company. It's been a long process. Came up with some hat concepts, and then eventually threw the whole concept away because people just wanted custom shit done. So eventually I just ended up doing a lot of custom stuff for people, which is time consuming because you have to come up with all these ideas and then you have to bring it by them, see if they like it or not. The only reason it's graffiti related is because I try and push the graffiti aspect on it. But then again, graffiti and skateboarding go hand in hand. If you go to a skate park, there's graffiti at the skate park. I bet you half of those kids who are skating are graffiti artists. It's just the culture, the intermix. It's like any other art form, it's just a way to express yourself. Why do people write poetry? To express themselves. If they're stressed, it's an outlet for your stresses in life, for your angers. Instead of going out and killing people because you're upset at something, you go out and you paint. Instead of going out and becoming a gang member, pick up a skateboard and go, you write poetry, you write a song, you make a film. It's just another artistic way to express yourself. You just create whatever you feel you can create. My teacher in high school, what is art? Art is whatever you can get away with. That's basically it. Done and done.
Chia is doing great things with his graffiti art, but how do you define the difference between graffiti art and vandalism? I know they say beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but building owners must not like their property getting tagged.
There's a big difference between burning and bombing, though. The self-proclaimed fastest burner in Toronto is Cruz, formerly known as Angel Carrillo. And in this next segment, Cruz explains the difference between burning graffiti art and bombing tags all over the city.
And hey, don't go away, because right after this, we've got stand-up comedian David Andrew Brent right here in the studio.
Tagging and piecing, though appear very different, have many things in common. I had the liberty of speaking to graffiti artist Angel Carrillo, better known on the streets as Cruz.
I started doing graph back in '95. I guess I got inspired by just seeing graffiti around the alleyways around my neighborhood on the West End, around Keele Street. I wanted to explore it, so I kind of just started doodling a lot on my own sketchbook, doing art classes on desks and whatnot. I got very curious and interested in this whole art form, and from there on it just kind of took off. In graffiti, there are rules, right? So you got to follow them rules. You got to paint illegally, you got to do stuff on the ground, you know, constantly keep the tradition alive, which is understanding, but at the same time, it's repetitive and unnecessary when the only rule is to destroy the city. You know what I mean? Like there's no challenge in that. It's like, okay, you're just doodling. You know what I mean? There's no message being sent. That pushes buttons in society. If you actually talked about something, there's so much topics to talk about. You can talk about the global warming. You can talk about, you know, unnecessary wars that are happening globally. You can talk about religion wars. You can talk about sexism, racism, you name it. The topics are endless. Talk about that. Talk about what frustrates you if you're going to do something illegal. Then maybe you cause a reaction. But if your idea is just to say, hey, I'm going to put my name up to get up, then you really are not doing anything for graffiti. It's just, you're doing it for yourself and it's self-promotion. I just don't think that's what graph is all about. So in graph, there's two different styles. You got guys who do pieces and burners. Okay, pieces and burners are guys who do the actual mural, the colors, the work on the dimension of the typography, do actual work, production work. Those guys are the guys who are constantly working on showcasing graffiti for the art form that it is, the rawness of it. Bombers, now these guys are the guys who tag, they'll throw bubble letters all over the city. The idea of a bomber is that the concept is basically your tags are all over the place like an explosion. You just blew up, so that's a bomb, all right? So that's a bomb, that's what he does. The problem is when a bomber and a graffiti artist, let's say a graffiti artist goes over a bomber, that's when war starts because the bomber is gonna feel like I cover the city, you have to have that respect, it's street credit. But a graffiti artist will put more work into his actual production that no matter how many bombs you have in the city, a piece or a burner will always top any bomber's work all the time, no matter what.
I traveled downtown Toronto and spoke to some shop owners about their buildings being tagged. This is what they had to say.
What I think about my building being tagged is that what it do, it degrades the value of the business. Because when you have such thing as graffiti on the building and people pass it by, right, they don't really see the building beauty anymore because that takes away the image. People still come in because, I mean, they know we're here and what kind of service that we offer to the public, so they don't really look at the tag, but the tag is an issue. Every so often what we do, we repaint it. As soon as we repaint it, they tag it again.
I'm not sure it's disinviting. Queen Street used to be different. It wasn't always so corporate, and I think the little bits of graffiti still left over are just the last remnants of it before it became a large outdoor shopping mall. So I don't mind it at all.
Basically, the reason we allowed Angel to do the mural on the back of the building was because we get tagged quite often by local kids who I guess are just trying to mark their territory. And this was our attempt to thwart their efforts. Generally, from what I understand, if you have a nice mural or something that's preconceived up on the wall, kids will avoid tagging it.
I sat down with former bomber Cola, who gave his opinion about bombing.
I'd say bombing is good practice, and you can see the skill of someone's artistic skills with the can based on how they can lay up a nice bomb. However, I'd prefer a piece over a bomb just because it looks better. There's more time obviously put into it.
Whether it's legal or illegal, you got to send out a message, and I think that's the downfall of graffiti. There's nothing challenging about bombing on one side of a wall. If you want to challenge yourself, go on a skyscraper, paint that. You know, make it something that is memorable, something that can push the limit of bombing.
For 6 years, David Andrew Brent performed improv and sketch comedy. Now he's focusing more on stand-up. So without further ado, here's David Andrew Brent.
All right, everybody, put your hands together for David Andrew Brent.
Yes, hello. My name is David Andrew Brent, and the sound of my awesomeness is going to be coming to you for the next 5 minutes. Ladies, if your bums are getting warm, it's probably because you're looking at me. I know what you're thinking, and yes, if you do think this is my real voice, you're retarded. The only thing that this voice is actually good for, hiding under little girls' beds. We're gonna go to Creepy Town, folks, so hang on for just a second. Cindy, I'm gonna be here from the ages of 12 all the way until 18, and if you're lucky, I might even color commentate your prom night. Ooh. Another wonderful thing about having a voice like this is you can reintroduce yourself. I'll give you a brief example right now. It's hot, I know, I ride bikes. 27 years in the making, minus 1 year. David Andrew Brent, this guy. He's bringing his comedy to the stages of Toronto and beyond, beyond, beyond. Born, raised in a town called Thornhill. Not a Jew, no. David's your comic for the next 3 minutes and 33 seconds, so give David Andrew Brent another round of applause. Yes! Thank you, thank you. Okay, so that concludes the hip-hop portion of my show. So I talk about how amazing I am and then say my name about 300 different times. I think now is a really good time to sing a song. How about you? Yeah, you. No, you. Okay, you guys will recognize it, so feel free to sing along. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. Arnold Schwarzenegger. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you are happy and you really want to show it, you might want to do some push-ups or something, buddy, because you look like you could use some. And if you're happy and you know it, maybe you should clap your hands. So clap your hands. Something I like to do with this impersonation is go through the phone book and find the last name Connor, the first initial J. This phone call goes like this. Ring, ring, ringity, ring. Hello, John. Yes? Oh, I'm sorry, is this John Connor? Yes? Okay, good. John, there's something that you need to do. Push-ups? No. Come with me if you want to live. Now, of course, it's 3 in the morning when a phone call like this happens, but what comes with the phone book? Your phone number, yes, and your address. So it's going to be a little hard to ignore me now. Then I kick open the door and I hold a shotgun into your face. I'm wearing a black leather jacket and I've got a freshly waxed chest. Down here, you can think about it all night, people. And I say the words, food you. Oh, John, I'm so sorry for the ruse. You see, actually, I'm here from the Canadian Blood Bank Society. And John, we need you. So come with me if you want to give. Okay, thanks, guys. My name's David Andrew Brent. Enjoy the rest of your show.
All right, everybody give it up for David Andrew Brent. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good, man. Good job. Okay, so tell our audience where they can catch your next upcoming show.
Next show, you can catch me Sunday, May 31st at the Second City, which is 51 Mercer Street down in Toronto. Tickets are $15 or $20 at the door, but you won't find any at the door because they're going fast. Boom!
All right, man. Thanks again for coming.
Thank you.
And we'll be sure to check out your next show. Carissa, where are you at, sister?
Very soon we'll be showing the mock disaster that took place last month at Centennial's HB campus, and then on to our final and most touching story surrounding the sacrifices that Filipino nannies make for their families. Before we get into that, reporter Paul Hunsrao shows us that although laughter may be the best medicine, sometimes the only cure is music.
Hi, my name is Aaron Marshall, and this is How Much I Love Guitar. I play guitar and I play drums, and music has been a big part of my life for, I'd say, about 10 years now, and I play guitar in a progressive metal band called Speak of the Devil. Music interests me more than anything because it's, I guess, the most natural way to express one's emotion. A lot of the times, like, you can't really portray how you feel with words, and music is a really good outlet for that. And it's also, a very, how do I want to put it? it has a lot of integrity as far as like original composition and like creativity goes, and you know, being proud of a piece of art that you've created that can inspire you as others have inspired myself. My dad's always been like a big jazz buff, but then that inspired me to get on him to get me a guitar, and we brought it home, and I was frustrated for a really long time, and then it just started to gel, and it's probably the most natural thing for me to do anytime, anywhere, is just play guitar, and there's really no other things like that I do in my life with ease, I guess. Not to say that playing guitar is easy, but it's just the only thing that makes sense to me. I endured a pretty serious injury snowboarding. I'd say that was probably about four years ago. You know, I just wasn't being very cautious, obviously, and it's something I regret. But I mean, you know, snowboarding is like a big part of my life as well. So, well, they told me that I'd broken my wrist and that I'd suffered some serious nerve damage to the tendons in the fingers of my left hand, and basically that I would have to undergo some serious rehabilitation as far as like gaining all movement in my hand again, and then as far as being able to articulate on the guitar as effectively would just require more playing and more rigorous exercises as far as like stretching goes, which is something that a lot of guitar players concentrate on for sure. It's definitely a part of your ritual for warming up and playing, but it was more extensive, and it was a lot harder to get chords to fit under my fingers. But just the more I pushed through it came back, and then it was like it had never gone away. Not to say that I don't still enjoy, both hobbies, but it was just kind of a no-brainer. Yeah, music was it at that point.
Me and him both went to an art school, and we were both in the music theater programs and in the stage band program. So we would play for we would learn music we'd have to play. I played the bass and he played guitar, and we learned a lot about music going to school, because we had some really good teachers, and we got a lot more used to playing with a large band with many instruments, and trying to know where things fit in, where things can go. Because there's so many instruments that if you just had them all doing whatever, then it would sound like a jumble of a mess, right? Well, he definitely teaches me more than I teach him, and because I play a lot more the rhythm kind of stuff, so he writes a lot of the more complex lead kind of stuff, and I'll write rhythm parts. So in that sense, we both write our own parts and bring them together, but in the sense of us teaching each other, we because we always talk about it, right? We'll constantly be talking about if this fits with that, and how this sounds with what he's playing, or what I'm playing with what Derek's playing, or anything of the sort. We all it has to be worked out really meticulously.
I was having a hard time finding work, and I know people who were interested in learning, and figured I might as well make use of being able to play and being able to teach. So did it just to kind of make ends meet. Really kind of had to at the time. So at first I just got like people asking just like at shows or at school, just I guess just from the band, but it wasn't enough at the time, so I made like a Facebook group and invited a bunch of people to it. There's 2 scale shapes, one for each corresponding key. You've got a major scale shape, which starting on the root would be whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. That's always going to be your formula for a major. And then as far as your minor is concerned, starting on the root, it would be whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step. Yeah, that would be it, sorry. So laid out like kind of like the curriculum, I guess, of like what I'm offering and my rates and stuff like that, and invited like everybody on my list. And like I don't know, Facebook's a pretty good social network, I guess, for promoting stuff like that. So those were really it. I mean, word of mouth and just like Facebook and stuff. Basically, the way I think about it is, if you want to get minor, you want to get sad, so you want to go down, and if you want to get major, you want to get happy, which means you want to go up. And it's always going to be a step and a half below or above the root. I don't know, teaching something like I could keep up, like on the side and stuff. I mean, I don't like expect to be like touring like rigorously like in the next, you know, in the near future anyway. But I don't know, I don't have my conservatory. Should have got it when I was younger, but I didn't start music or playing or learning music until, you know, I was like 10. So I mean, it's never too late. It's like learning another language. It's just something I, you know, should have done when I was younger, but I didn't. It doesn't make the difference, but that piece of paper can get you a lot more job opportunities as far as teaching is concerned. But, you know, I could teach myself. It's just, you know, it's on a different level when you have your conservatory and you're able to teach.
The mock disaster is an exercise that simulates a serious situation to test the ability of emergency workers to respond calmly and competently in the midst of chaos.
At the end of March, the mock disaster took place at Centennial's HB campus on Morningside Avenue. Here's our coverage of the event.
He has obvious preference.
He's got you.
Today is a mock simulation. The actual event is an explosion in the subway with lots of bodies being carted out into the closest hospital, which happens to be the Centennial Hospital. We convert the various labs that we can into what is basically a hospital environment, and then invite a bunch of doctors and nurses to come play.
We are taking nursing students, medical students, and medical residents who are trainees who finished medical school. We create a mass casualty incident, and then we throw all these people in and we tell them, deal with this, manage this, figure out how you're going to cope with the unusual circumstances, the more difficult workload, the sicker patients, and the life and death decisions that have to be made under these circumstances.
Oh, and her pressure is
80 over 30, yeah.
All right, let's. Okay, up. How old are you, Alex? 24? Okay, and tell me again what happened. How'd you get the injury on this side? Were you hit by something or did you fall?
Subway, that's hit.
Did you black out at all?
We're kind of stuck in the chaos of being on scene, so the biggest thing for us is identifying who needs to go to the hospital and who needs to get there the fastest.
120 on 70, and she went up to 140 on 60.
I'm a nurse in emergency at Mount Sinai, and it's fun. I picked nursing because I get to combine my like for science along with interpersonal people skills. That's a good blend. I like doing that. Why Emerge? Emerge is fun. Can you park her around the corner right over here, please?
I'm a resident physician, so I'm an emergency medicine doctor at the end of my training. So my role in this particular scenario is to run the trauma resuscitation area and help out with the sickest of the sick patients that come through the department.
Okay.
There's the ET2 van. Here, I'm Myk, the ET2 van. So there's one right there.
So we're kind of sorting out sick versus not sick. So we had the help of 2 people who are dedicated solely to that, triage officers, and then you kind of have to take some of it upon yourself too. You don't want to take everyone to the wrong facility and overreact, so you have to have a good gauge of who's sick and who's not sick. It's hit and miss sometimes on how acute the patients are, so it's a lot easier to stand and describe to a nurse, you know, someone who's got pain in their stomach, as opposed to bringing in someone who's having CPR performed on them and been in a massive explosion.
Ma'am, can you hear me? She's tachy at 140. She's breathing 44.
Every patient's different. You never know what you're going to get walking through the door next. Always keeps your mind moving. It's a challenge, and it's rewarding. People come in dire agony and pain or injury or in life-threatening situation, and we help ease their pain, and we help fix their injury. Excellent.
Sorry. Come with me this way.
Have a seat.
Well, it gets some hands-on for a situation that is pretty rare in reality, and with a simulation this big, it allows students to see just how scary and how chaotic a surge of patients can be when something like that happens.
Well, if we have to do it, so then we can wait for Gen Surge to do the trade.
We have high-fidelity simulators, so patient simulators. We have great made-up patients. All of them are done quite realistically.
I don't know. I think everyone in this profession has their own reasons. Mine is kind of personal, but when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, I just want to be helping people, saving lives, making a difference.
Oh, fundamentally, you have your critically wounded, your slightly wounded, and almost in this situation, most importantly, family members. Because in a situation where you have, say, 20 people injured, you get about 150 family members swamping the hospital. And that's one of the critical pieces in the simulations. It's the interaction between the disciplines that are really critical, and it's a vital role for our students to enjoy a safe environment and know what real life is really like. It's a really good learning experience for not only for the police foundations and social service workers and broadcast students and paramedic students. It's the interaction between all of it, and it's not just a nursing mock disaster, it's an everybody disaster. I always say this is the best and closest thing to reality a student can get and still be safe.
Did you lose consciousness? This guy's got some fucked up shit in his neck. How old are you? Just
The plight of Filipino nannies working as slave labor in the West is a growing concern in Canada. Nannies across the country are being exploited by a system that imports cheap labor, making these women vulnerable to abuse. I spoke to 2 Filipino women who have discovered the many loopholes in the live-in caregiver program, which deny even basic human rights. These women and all caregivers gain strength from each other to speak out and demand the return of their respect and dignity.
There is a feeling of elation. Above the clouds, a mother dreams of a beautiful life with her family in her new home, Canada, the land of opportunities. Meet Julina Maluto. She arrived in Canada with 4 other nannies in October 2008. She paid a recruiting agency, Rakila International, $1,100 for an employer, only to find out it was bogus. Little did she know that she would be fighting for the rights of all nannies.
We 4 arrived, no employer, different reason, different situation, and very upset.
Rakila forced Jolina to sign a contract to pay a placement fee of $5,000 and to hand over her passport. The Live-In Caregiver program puts many restrictions on caregivers because 1, they have temporary status, secondly, they have to work only for the employer stated on their work permit, thirdly, they have to live with their employers. After many weeks waiting, Rakila finally found Jolina an employer. But Jolina faced maltreatment. She lacked privacy. She shared a bathroom with her employer's son who came in while she showered. Her employer did not respect her.
Her behavior is not good. She always yelling and screaming early in the morning. No consideration. Even if I lay down, call me downstairs. You see your mistake, you see your mistake. You cannot wait until morning.
Jolina worked for 18 hours every day from 6 a.m. to 12 midnight doing house chores.
The last part that I had to do is ironing too. All I make iron towel and everything. 2 big boxes, so I did it.
One night, tired and overworked, Jolina burnt her hand while ironing. Her employer showed no compassion.
I cannot forget that she don't even say, oh my God. So I said, I need to move this. I cannot. I remember my children that I promised that I have a good employer.
Jolina quit that job and returned to the Rakila basement where she stayed with 16 other Filipino women. They are called one by one from the basement for employers to choose as their nannies and take home. It's the worst kind of human trafficking.
We sleep in one room, a very small room, 1 bed, 3 girls, down on the floor, 3 girls, down on the floor, 4 girls. Some of the girls outside the basement, in the sofa, and some of the girls in the office. So we sleeping together. What I feel is, it seems that I want to kill myself when I was there at the basement.
Jolina knew this is wrong. She stood up against Rakila and demanded for what belonged to her, respect and dignity. 46-year-old Celia Mansibang completed the required 24 months. She's been working in Canada as a nanny since 2004. In September 2008, Celia applied for permanent resident in hopes to be an immigrant of Canada and sponsor her family she's been separated since 1994.
Noong January 29, I was diagnosed with stomach cancer. So nabigla ako doon sa result ng ko sa hospital kasi hindi ko naman akalain na nagkakaroon ako ng gano'n na sakit. Pero nung nag-medical naman ako, nung nag-file ako ng open ko, everything is fine.
The doctor told her she had 6 months to live. Celia did not have OHIP.
Ang advice niya is better to go home in the Philippines and spend my time for my family.
Celia's medical bills totaled to $17,000 due to an expired OHIP while waiting for her permanent residency. Celia prayed the immigration will grant her landing status so she can receive proper medical services and to see her family. Jolina, with her fellow caregivers, are leading campaigns to reform the program full of loopholes. On April 5, they discussed about the unregulated Ontario agencies that charge caregivers high fees for jobs that do not exist.
Their business is shut down because of that my article.
Politicians took notice and proposed a bill.
Bill 160 is a proposal put forward by a member of Provincial Parliament, Myk Miranda. It's really a response, his personal response to the media exposure of the lack of regulations for recruitment and employment agencies. And it's actually not going to go much further because the government of Ontario will be proposing their own legislation to regulate employment agencies. It's great. It is indeed a small victory for live-in caregivers.
Without her landing status, Celia has no OHIP. Without it, Celia, a cancer patient, cannot receive palliative care.
When somebody is applying for permanent residence and their work permit had already expired, but they submitted an extension along with their permanent residence application. So what happens in that situation is they don't have a piece of paper saying they're authorized to work, but they do have, by operation of law, legal authorization to continue working as a live-in caregiver program. Now, Immigration Canada understands that concept completely. The Ministry of Health doesn't. So they deny live-in caregivers in those situations continuous health care coverage. And only until they get some type of approval from immigration do they once again get health coverage.
She hasn't received her landing status. That caused her a big worry.
Terry Olaita and the Cross Resource Cultural Group worry because processing the papers will take a year or more. The Filipino community acted quickly to help Celia.
Madaling panahon dahil ang wish ni Celia, unang-una, makita niya ang pamilya niya. So doon ako nag-concentrate na kung magkakaroon na makakakolekta tayo ng maraming petition signatures, maring mapansin tayo ng immigration.
Immigration granted Celia her permanent resident on March 27. Her husband, William, and children Lysandra and Vincent arrived in Canada on March 29 as landed immigrants.
Kasi sa tagal ng paghiwalay namin, gusto ko talagang magsama-sama na kami. Ngayon, masaya na ako dahil nandito na kami, sama-sama na kami. Ang masakit, yung inaasahan kong kasiyahan na yun, ganyan naman ang misis ko. Halos di ko matanggap nung nakita ko siya eh. Pero, Diyos na lang nakakaalam. At titiisin ko na lang lahat. Alang-alang sa mga anak namin.
Sobrang saya. Sa totoo lang kasi ngayon, first time ko talaga mag-birthday na meron si mama na may isip ako. May nagkaisip na.
Hindi ko mapipil na nawawala si mama kasi parang kulang. Kailangan gusto ko rin siya pag magsama kami. Kung gano'n din katagal na nawala siya gusto ko, gano'n din katagal kami magsasama.
Masaya naman ako nung dumating sila kasi naano ko rin yung hardship ko sa pagtatrabaho dito. At least nakuha ko din sila dito. So I'm so happy about that.
If Canada needs migrant workers like caregivers, why aren't they permanent resident from day one with full human rights? What will landed status mean to a live-in caregiver?
There is this sense of belonging, right? And there is this sense of empowerment that we are not second-class citizens. We are not the modern-day slaves, but we are your equal. You know, we work hard, we pay our taxes, we pay our dues, and we are just like any of those professionals who are here, actually, because we are trained, we are certified, and we are serious with our work. Not only serious, but I must say, we work from the heart. We really care for the children that we take care of. We really care for this Alzheimer patient, senior citizen who really do not know herself anymore, but we do care with our hearts. And so I believe that that status of being a permanent resident here would give us that stability and also the empowerment.
Canada needs to embrace caregivers who fully want to commit for the service of the country. Let this be their home. Hear their cries. Good enough to work, good enough to stay.
Well, that's it for the Journal this season. We hope you enjoyed our stories and that you'll tune into the season premiere this coming October. Thanks for watching. I'm Kim Smith.
And I'm Carissa Reyes. We're going to close with a tune by Myk Miranda's group Santa Gorilla, so enjoy.
And from all of us here at the Journal, have a great summer.